The human body is disgusting. Like and subscribe if you agree, I suppose. Sure, when you see one of those classical statues, you're amazed by the beauty and elegance of the human body. Same thing when a beautiful and desirable person appears on screen. That's the magic of simulations. We get all the pleasure without dealing with the backstage stuff. You know, the organs, what lies beneath the skin. The body is gross. The body's embarrassing. If it weren't, bathroom stalls wouldn't have doors and we'd walk around naked in the summer. Even Hollywood's biggest starlet, the most desired woman of the moment, looks in the mirror and sees a bundle of defects and imperfections most people don't even notice. Our body defecates, wrinkles, grows pimples, has cellulite, too little or too much fat. It gets sick, it vomits, it produces earwax, pus, and all sort of unpleasant fluids. When I was about to meet the singer-songwriter Luis Eduardo Aute, I was nervous, and a friend told me, just imagine him taking a shit, and he won't seem so impressive. Meanwhile, with Instagram filters and stunning influencer bodies, it's normal that we all feel a little bit like scum. Everybody knows this. Talking about it isn't new. About beauty ideals, objectification, patriarchy, capitalism, blah blah blah. It's something everyone worries about, me included. So much that it feels like there's nothing new to add. Like it's all been said. Then along came The Substance, a film that, on the surface, seems like just another feminist critique of beauty and youth standards. But if it were only about that, I wouldn't have thought about this film so much after the first viewing. Been there, done that. When I saw this film at a preview screening in the Sitges Film Festival, I was, let's say, pleasantly surprised. Now that time has passed and it seems to be a big hit, I wanted to take the opportunity to dive into themes that go beyond the merely superficial. Without spoilers, this movie, judging just from the promotional material, seems to cover an underdone topic. It's about a Hollywood actress who has aged and is losing work until she finds a substance that allows her to live as a young woman again, but at a high price. Trite, right? The eternal youth and the vanity theme, from Narcissus to Dorian Gray, from Lot's Wife to Death Becomes Her by Robert Zemeckis. By all appearances, The Substance seems ready to repeat itself, but as the film progressed, I realized something troubling. I started to identify with the protagonist. I am not an actress seeking youth. Our stories have nothing in common, but something clicked. The craving, the vice, the desperation, and above all, the stupidity. I'm Quetzal, and like the rest of humanity, I'm a bit of a fool. I suppose we all are, and if you've never realized you're a complete twat, I'm sorry to inform you, you're the dumbest in the room.
Break, heartbreak, fail, live or fail. But if you can hear me complaining, I'm neither dead or in jail.
Hello my dear Nighthawks. Following the usual no spoiler policy on the channel, I'm going to talk about The Substance for a while. First with general observations that don't spoil anything about the film, but from the timestamp on screen, we'll have to dive into bigger details and I'll do one of those ending explain bits. Oh, I love ending explained videos. What a way to insult the viewer's intelligence. So, first things first, do I recommend The Substance? Well, yes and no. It's probably one of those movies that's hard to recommend, but judging by its box office success, people have more tolerance to gore than I thought. Without giving too much away, The Substance is not for the squeamish, and it's a film about the body in all its expressions. This includes detailed shots of injections, chewing mouths, open wounds, and all sorts of delights. There's gore galore. Do you like grisly, morbid thrills and wet puppets? Then you'll love it. I do. That said, with almost 2.5 hours of runtime, I can say I loved it enthusiastically. I liked it, I recommend it, but I'd also prefer it shorter, probably because it spends too much time on what seems to be its superficial theme, a critique of Hollywood's exploitation of women, sexualization, ageism, celebrity culture, fame, etc. Not to say this topic isn't important. The lead actress, Demi Moore, is precisely one of those stars brought down by the system. In the 90s, she was everywhere, but in the 2000s, she was reduced to cheap TV movies and whatever that terrible film Bunraku was. But I can say it's a theme that, quite frankly, doesn't interest me as much because I'm not a beautiful actress, nor do I know many beautiful actresses. But I'm 39, my knees hurt, and I go to the gym 3 times a week because I am terrified of becoming a slouchy, softy 40-something. But I think it's a mistake to see The Substance as a movie about the body, even though it might seem like that at the first glance. The more I think about it, the more complex it seems, and what initially struck me as script flaws now feel like masterful twists. No, the film isn't about the body. It displays and exploits it to exhaustion. This film exhausts flesh until it becomes invisible. Besides many shots focused on needles and other gross things, The Substance delights in filming its actresses' erotized bodies under the male gaze to the point of exhaustion. There's a moment where all the shots of legs, butts, and breasts reach an excess that turns it into a parody, where any beauty our protagonist might have becomes repetitive, tired. Then, through sheer repetition, the body becomes increasingly irrelevant, and flesh ultimately becomes a portrait of the soul, of consciousness, like a strange case of Dorian Gray's portrait. And that's when it hit me. The Substance isn't a movie about the body. It's about love, specifically self-love. I'm not a beautiful actress. I don't know any beautiful actresses, but if there's one thing we all deal with, it's self-love. It manifests in many ways, one of the most visual being someone looking at their body in disgust in the mirror. But beneath that, there's more than just rolls, cellulite, or scars. There's our fear of not being worthy of love, our fear of loneliness and abandonment, our guilty awareness of being less than we feel we should be. The body's flaws are merely the physical manifestation of those insecurities. The most self-loving people I know don't worry so much about their appearance. The most fragile people I've known dressed impeccably and groom themselves like divas before going out. When the protagonist receives The Substance at home, the product promises to make her the best version of herself. I think these words are well chosen. It's not about being young again or beautiful. It's about being the best version of oneself. The best version of myself is an idea that tortures me, and perhaps it tortures you too. My body has improved a lot with exercise, yes, but I still look in the mirror with a similar disgust, because although what I see is much better than before, it's still not the best version of myself. Unfortunately, this isn't just a matter of muscle or body fat. The best version of myself is an eternally unreachable idea in all aspects. I will never read as many books as I should, never be as good as a writer as I dream, never be as good as a person as I want. I will always be a bit ignorant, a bit mediocre, a bit bad. The best version of myself is like a carrot dangling in front of a donkey that walks in circles, tied to a mill. Tantalos had the audacity to serve the gods cooked flesh of his own son to humiliate them. They condemned him to the underworld, always thirsty, always hungry. Above him, a fruit that moves away when he tries to reach it. Below him, water that always recedes. The best version of myself is just like his eternal torture, a toxic desire, always out of reach. Elizabeth Sparkle, the protagonist of the film, becomes addicted to The Substance. Who wouldn't get addicted to the substance? It's not just about being young and beautiful, it's about living in a constant state of self-assurance. At first, there are some dissonant elements in the film. For instance, the job our protagonist is trying to reclaim isn't some glamorous Hollywood role, but a tacky 80s-style aerobics TV show that imitates Jane Fonda. A degrading job, no doubt, and one that becomes increasingly sexist and objectifying as the film progresses. Viewed under this light, our protagonist seems foolish. Administering the substance involves difficult and painful processes I won't detail to avoid spoilers, but suffice to say that subjecting oneself to such ordeals just to prance around on a tacky set isn't exactly anyone's dream. We aspire to be rock stars, not harpsichord players at a bingo hole. Wouldn't it make more sense for Elizabeth Sparkle to use her youthful version to star in a blockbuster? No, because this isn't really about her job, it's about the joy her best self brings to her. Her frustrations is with a world that rejects her, but, most of all, with herself and her struggle to cope with the desire for impossible perfection. The substance is a drug. They could have chosen potions or pills, but encoding it with injections is precisely the kind of lack of subtlety this story requires. Additionally, the substance comes with a rule. You can only inhabit your ultra-perfect body during alternate weeks, meaning you'll spend half of your life as your degraded, imperfect version, increasingly aware of everything that's missing, everything you desire. Here lies the main conflict for our protagonist. Her professional triumphs are secondary. This is all just a vehicle for feeling accepted and, most importantly, for accepting herself. During abstinence period, she suffers, and suffers deeply. That's why she risks everything. That's why she does stupid things that hurt her, because she is an addict. I, myself, have constant struggles with anxiety, and one of the methods I've used is drinking wine. Even though I'm an intelligent person who fully understands the mechanics of addiction and alcoholism, I always find an excuse to power another glass. There's always something stressing me out that justifies it, and when nothing stresses me out, I suppose the excuse is to celebrate. I become a complete wanker, and even though I know these are all excuses, I let them slide because I'm creative and my rationalizations are always sharp and poetic. I'll throw out an Oscar Wilde quote: "The best way to get rid of temptations is to yield to it." Haha, refined Victorian humor. And then I take a sip. Not because alcohol will turn me into the best version of myself, but because, for a while, it makes me forget about the best version of myself. When I practice abstinence, this gets much harder. I can't silence the inner voice, the unbearable whirlpool of my own thoughts hammering my skull, and the insomnia. The worst part is the insomnia, tossing and turning in bed, ruminating. I need a drink. If it weren't wine, it would be something else: coke, video games, sex, plastic surgery, TV shows. Always a way to run forwards, always the donkey chasing the carrot. At the end of his autobiographical novel Junkie, William Burroughs announces he's heading to Mexico to seek the ultimate fix. The substance isn't just a drug, it's the best drug. It's everything, and the better the drug, the worse the withdrawal. The more that the replicant revels in life, the longer, duller, and more unbearable the weeks as Elizabeth Sparkle become. Her abstinence is her torture. This isn't just a film about beauty and youth. It's about looking in the mirror and accepting yourself. As the poet once said, "Oh, in noble servitude of loving humans, and the most ignoble, that is, to love oneself." Alright, so now we've reached the spoiler section. I've already said most of what I wanted about the film while dancing around its final twist. But I think it's fair to dive in at this point. The youthful, happy version of our protagonist doesn't adhere to the rule of alternating weeks and creates a conflict between the two versions, although they are essentially the same person. Sue is the young one, Elizabeth is the mature one. Despite the film hammering the idea that they are the same, the narrative seems to contradict this. Sue abuses the substance excessively, making life worse for Elizabeth, who grows vengeful toward her replica. When Elizabeth calls the distributor of the substance, a voice on the other end always reminds her that the two are one. You are one. This isn't a conflict between two women, not even two versions of the same woman. This is the internal struggle externalized, made flesh. Addiction versus sobriety. The high of the drug versus self-acceptance and reality. The dream and the nightmare. This is what degrades our protagonist to her lowest point. This is what drives her to voluntarily destroy herself, as many addicts do, to make the decision that will end her life. And then it happens. Through brutal abuse of the substance, the two bodies merge into one, from which new, twisted faces and organs emerge. It feels straight out of a William Burroughs story. These final 20 minutes are an absolute ramp in the realm of wet puppet cinema, a genre of films like The Fly, From Beyond Society, and all of those delightful carnage fests. Personally, I love them, and any profound reflection goes out the window when I'm having so much fun watching the most affably disgusting thing on a giant screen. The monster, Ellie Sue, is a harrowing, brutal fusion, the culmination of addiction. The creature evokes a certain pity, dragging its placenta with the tenderness of the elephant man. Here, the drug and the body are one, a twisted form with Demi Moore's face screaming from its back, utterly consumed yet retaining that horrible shred of consciousness. Many might evoke the name of David Cronenberg here, but the sheer excess of blood is intentionally comedic, less pretentious, more like Sam Raimi. The absolute crescendo of violence is our morbid reward, a resonant finale sung by a fat soprano. So, if you were bored with the themes of addiction and identity, at least you have the theaters splattered with ketchup. Life is hard, and addictions are how we escape our insecure, complicated identities. Ours is a society of addicts, always pushing us toward a version of ourselves that exists only in fantasy. Even Taylor Swift poops. Imagine her in a private jet, relieving herself taking a shit. Even the most beautiful millionaire on the planet looks in the mirror and feels like she's not the best version of herself. Well, I assume. I don't know her. Maybe she's on the substance. But the rest of us survive here, with our vices and longings, always questioning. I wish I could offer an answer to all our consciousness, but there is no answer. As the poet César Simón once said, the greatest mystery of the universe is human consciousness. The fact that we are living beings who know they are alive, but don't know why. So, how's that for a banger of a closing quote for a like and subscribe, huh? As always, you know, if you want to support the channel, there's Patreon, which keeps this cat daddy afloat. Also, if you like some beat sorted poetry, perhaps you will enjoy my video reciting Allen Ginsberg's Howl. Yeah, check it out. I worked hard on that. And if you don't like beatnik poetry, then bugger off. Night night.